is in Tel Nof. There he also made reference to the threat from Iran, saying that Israel is preparing for scenarios of challenges from other arenas. I'm joined now on the developments with the Israel-Hamas war. I'm joined by Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo. Mr. Falowo, thank you for joining us. U.S. President Joe Biden's statement is ironclad statement referring to his support to Israel in the face of attack from Iran is coming just a day after he mentioned that Israeli Prime Minister is making a mistake with his approach in Gaza, asking for a ceasefire. What does this comment say about U.S. resolve to stand by Israel against foreign attacks? I'm not sure I can hear you from here. Okay, you can go ahead now.
Yes, thanks for having me. So this is very disheartening coming in from, every stakeholders, I would say. The point of the matter still remains that conflict and war is not going to be a resolving way to solve this crisis. It's not the answer. The best way is to, sit down and amicably resolve this lingering crisis. This hasn't been happening just yesterday. This has been a crisis that's been, long fought for decades and decades ago. And I would also say that from the perspective of the President of the United States, I understand because there are some Americans that have been held hostages currently, and Vice President Kamala Harris was able to talk to the families, to their families here in the United States, and assure them that they'll try their possible best to make sure that they return their loved ones in one piece. However, amidst that, I know that a lot of people are starting to have a dissatisfaction or a disagreement with the way that the Israeli team is handling this crisis, and it's very, very obvious because about 33,000 people are already dead. Gaza, that area alone has, I keep saying this, only 2 million populations, 2 million people in that country. And you're having 33,000 people and still counting that. So this is unfortunate. But going back to President Biden and the ironclad resolution for absolute support for the Israeli team against the Hamas, it's an electioneering year. And, some politicians would say what, they want to say to gain that that respect and that regard from other stakeholders. But I feel like a lot of politicians are currently speaking two sides of their mouths, because at some point they'll tell you something and then the other point they're saying something else.
But you also have to consider the political implication or perhaps the political pressure. It's election year in the U.S. How much role do you see that play on the U.S. position on the matter?
Absolutely, it plays a fundamental role. Currently, you'll find that there is some form of dissatisfaction among consumers. There are seeming to be boycotting some manufacturing companies that are seem to be supporting the violence and the war going on in between Israel and Gaza and and the Hamas. And like I said, they're boycotting those products, and also Turkey are placing trade restrictions on products coming from Israel, and a lot of people from different parts of the world, from the UK and some other parts of the country, here in the US, are also staging protests here and there. So peaceful protests, I would say, and they're telling the people and telling politicians and their political figures that they're not satisfied with the way people, especially vulnerable kids and adults, are dying in Gaza. And again, it's an electioneering year. A lot of politicians would say different things, but at the end of the day, we need to find a lasting solution to the crisis. And it wouldn't be war, it would be negotiations.
Absolutely. Well, you consider that thousands of people are reported to have died, including women, thousands of women and children. But quickly, what role do you see the Iran makes in all of this? Ayatollah was quoted to have said the evil regime must be punished and that it will be punished. It's unclear what form of reprisal attack that would take, but it doesn't sound like an empty threat. Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs has also responded on social media to Ayatollah's comment, saying that if Tehran attacks from its territory, Israel would react and attack in Iran. Do you foresee this conflict escalate significantly with these latest comments?
Well, yes, definitely. Any attack from Tehran will be a form and an indication that there will be a possible escalation of this crisis, and it would go beyond what we're saying now. And we're afraid for that. We're afraid for the people and vulnerable kids and women and pregnant women and adults. And you know, it's a lot that's going to happen. And you know, vulnerable people also are going to be, you know, casualties, and this is going to be unfortunate. But the good part is there are negotiations on the ground, and a lot of emissaries and folks are starting to go back and have these conversations with the Iranian and the Tehran officials. And this is good because we're trying to be cautious not to escalate this war. And you know, when you look at the antecedents, you would see that for Tehran to make that kind of statement, there's a possibility that they would, through maybe Hezbollah or some other affiliates, and go and attack the U.S. proxies, and that's more like the mode of operation for most of them. But this is, again, if they proceed with this conversation of war and retaliation, that would be a definite escalation to the crisis.
Absolutely. Good place to leave it. Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo, live for us in Indianapolis, United States. Thank you for talking to us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We're back with more stories from around the world.